Don with Mark Thompson, who also, it seems to me, is also stuck in his own shadow problem just because of the way he too, like Don, erases Mitch, who was a really key, significant historic figure, and all of that Mitch that has done from the historical record is also caught in his own shadow complex. Both of them decided that they were going to, in honor of the Radical Faerie's 30th anniversary, hold a public historical discussion at the One Institute downtown at USC, and One Institute is the place that holds LGBT history in Los Angeles, and it's a place where some of the Mattachine stuff happened back in the day. And it was so aggravating to some of us to see that happen with nary a word about Mitch, or maybe some superficial mention. And then the articles that Don was writing, which denied this important history, it was so aggravating and so bothersome that some of us who have a real passion for psychology and a real passion for wanting to just be gay in some more activist sense decided, well, what the hey, let's go down to the One Institute and cause a demonstration, make a demonstration and protest this, because what are good gay people supposed to do? Just take oppression lying down? No way. So we went over there and we made signs, and we had a picture of Don looking like Dick Cheney. We had a picture of Mark Thompson looking like Barbara Bush. And then we wrote, Don and Mark, deal with your shadows. It was all very fun and very good realpolitik. And we had lots of wonderful material written down, illustrating and explaining the situation for people. And we did a very professional little small demonstration. I think there were maybe a fair amount of people, like maybe 20, maybe 30 people who were there. And we gave out the flyers to everybody with all of the packet about explaining the historical issues and trying to talk to people a little bit about why psychology is important, why facing the shadow is the transformational way of securing a stronger gay identity and gay potentiality. And we were very successful.
Fairies cannot harmonize, erasing truth and telling lies. Fairies cannot harmonize, erasing truth and telling lies. Woo! Woo! Woo!
For me, the story starts in actually I could have started in 1984, but let's say 74. But in 1978, I was up at a place called Lama, a Sufi community up in the Sangre de Cristos Mountains of New Mexico. And when I left that community, after a couple of weeks, I went to visit Harry Hay and his companion John Burnside in San Juan de Pueblo. John and Harry and I sat by the Rio Grande River and talked for about 2 days.
So Thomas, can you tell me a little bit what it's like for you to be here today and what you're here for?
Well, I'm here because there's a presentation being done today about the origin of the Radical Fairies.
Fairies cannot harmonize.
And we're here protesting because there's a big part of it that's being distorted and isn't being told in a complete way around how basically gay-centered psychology has developed over time. And there's a way in which the presenter has just erased that. And so we're here just to protest that.
Well, I don't know how much backstory to give, but I mean, the not simple answer is that Harry Hay. Well, that's Harry Hay. That's Harry Hay. That's a picture of him when he's younger. There's a picture of him when he's older up there. Harry Hay was the first person to organize homosexuals politically in North America. And he came up with this idea in 1950 called the Mattachine Society. And he organized people because he was a communist in these communist cells, and they all got together, and their main questions were, who are we, where do we come from, and what are we here for? They were really, really spiritual questions. And from the Mattachine eventually kicked him out, but it grew to become a national organization with chapters in every major city across North America. And we're really indebted to Harry Hay for developing that first organization. Then in the 70s, which was the birth of the modern gay sexual revolution, Harry was writing a lot of really important papers on gay vision, on gay spirit. Gay spirit is a really important idea. There's like a series of movements in the gay movement, and there's a gay assimilationist movement, and then there's a gay mainstream movement, there's a gay radical movement, there even used to be a gay anarchistic movement. There's also what could be called a gay spiritual movement that actually is sourced in here in Los Angeles. And Harry Hay, because of the articles he was writing around such themes as gay vision, gay window, analog vision, subject consciousness, really simply that homosexuals have the propensity, according to Harry, to relate to each other as subject to subject. And like what he said, heterosexuals, because of their upbringing and their brainwashing, relate to each other as subject to object, and therefore there's all of these power plays. But subject to subject is much like Martin Buber's idea of I-thou, having an I-thou relationship. And Harry was really big about developing those central ideas that are still really important today. And he organized with Mitch Walker at the time, who was a psychologist, and who wrote the first article in a Jungian journal on a homosexual soul configuration called the double in 1976. He got together with Mitch Walker, and then the organizer and the founder of the Gay and Lesbian Community Services Center, Don Kilhefner, to form a group called the Radical Faerie Movement, which is the first effort to organize homosexuals spiritually in North America, now a nationwide movement. So all three of them got together. The long and the short of it is that Harry, while a great visionary and an important, amazing person, had, like all the rest of us, a lot of unfinished family business and a lot of what we call maybe in Jungian parlance had a shadow, or had maybe in other maybe psychological senses lots of trauma that he hadn't ever really reckoned with. And like all of us, he would act it out publicly in efforts to be dominating and so forth. So much for subject-subject consciousness. So Mitch, who was trying to struggle with his own psychology at the time and was trying to emerge as a psychologist, thought it was very important that if we were going to advance a gay spiritual movement, that we not do it unpsychologically. Here's a very, very basic idea that is hard for all of us to grok, which is we all have an idea of spirituality that is largely Christian in source, that spirituality is the light and the good and the bright, and all of the dark, bad stuff is a downer. But if we're more rational and more psychological, we could see actually that everything has its opposite. So everything good will also have its opposite. And if you just look at the yin and yang of existence, therefore then the shadow makes rational sense, that the ego would cast its own dark shadow. And that shadow would then therefore need to be dealt with rationally and literally and practically and tangibly if one were to actually be not just a good human being, which is true, but also a good gay human being.
What's being left out is one of the main contributors, Mitch Walker, who has done extensive work around gay psychology, gay-centered psychology, and theory and a practice about how to work with that. And that's been totally erased and left out. And he was one of the founding three members of the Radical Fairies. So we just want to make sure that all of that gets seen and heard about.